But you were explaining how the U.S.
Yeah,
market
just
doesn't get
because,
that mainstream.
and obviously in the UK, boxing is a major sport. Top 5, definitely, probably top 3. So the major broadcasting outlets and media outlets cover all of our press conferences. So like, you know, the BBC and the ITV, which is like your traditional network channels, will be covering our events, even though it's not live on their platform. The national media outlets will be covering, the national radio shows will be covering it. So here we have to rely more on the boxing media, like you guys, because that is the source of really output to the reachers and the people. And I feel like it's difficult to grow a US talent when the national media or the major media outlets in different cities don't actually follow boxing. Like I look at the likes of Crawford and I look at the likes of Wilder and those kind of people. They should really be, like when Wilder was a world heavyweight champion, I thought this guy should be like a national superstar. Like he is a really exciting fighter. He's the world heavyweight champion from Alabama. Like the whole of the national media should be following him and telling his story. It is difficult, and I think whilst that's happening, it's very difficult to grow boxing to the levels to the casuals. Funnily enough, bit of a boring story, but I'll tell it anyway. I was in the lift with someone, and they said, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from London." I said, "Where are you from?" They said, "I'm from Alabama." I said, "Can I ask you a question? Like, do you know Deontay Wilder?" And they went, "Of course." I was like, "Oh, right." I said, "Is he a big deal in Alabama?" "Huge, yeah. He's a massive star." I'm like, "Good. That's a good start." He should have had, in my opinion, more events in Alabama. Terence Crawford should have had more events in Nebraska, because the visuals of having 15,000, 20,000 in your hometown, you know, being driven around the home city on an open top bus with the adoration of your city and your state, that resonates, I think, with the US, but it is difficult, you know, and I look at fighters like Richardson Hitchins, even like Devin as well, like to break through to the national media is very difficult when boxing is down the pecking order of your sporting roster, particularly with college sport as well. So it's even below that, which is huge. So yeah, that's the difference. I mean, I know that I can do a press conference in the UK and I can have every media outlet from the whole country come to the press conference. You could open a paper, national newspaper, the next day, it's in there, you know, and it's difficult.
Well, you know, to change speeds quite a bit. We had some fun last time at the Conor Benn fight. Had a little back and forth about the UCAD and everything. Turns out they appeal and they win. So ultimately,
not yet. No, I mean that hasn't been announced by anybody.
Right.
But I saw your post about it,
yes.
And you're actually incorrect. It's very simple to say. When I say for a fighter to be cleared, they have to not be suspended. If they're suspended, they can't fight. So Conor Benn was suspended pending a hearing. He won the hearing and he was not suspended anymore, which means you're clear to fight, right? Sometimes people like to, you know, muddy, and maybe I do, and we all play this game of saying, you know, yeah, but is he really cleared to fight? If you were suspended and that suspension has been lifted, you are cleared to fight. And that was the only reason that Conor could fight when he boxed in Florida and when he boxed in Las Vegas. If he was suspended, but those commissions would not have let him fight. The ABC would have not have let him fight. So right now, Conor Benn is not suspended in any commission in the world. So at the moment, he is cleared to fight. Now, whether the British Boxing Board of Control will let him fight is another conversation, or whether they choose to license him. But because he's not suspended, it means that he can fight in all the other jurisdictions around the world. If all of a sudden the British Boxing Board of Control suspend Conor Benn, then those fights in Florida and Vegas, they wouldn't be able to take place. Do you understand? And maybe you go to another jurisdiction, but that's not the plan. The reason we move forward with his fights is because he wasn't suspended. He was cleared to fight. So you know, everyone's jumping to conclusions about no one's heard anything from the British Boxing Board of Control. Conor Benn, UCAD, let them do their work and there'll be news in due course. But right now, he is not suspended in any jurisdiction under any commission in the world. So he can fight. If that changes, his position changes. And there was a time where, when he was suspended, pending the investigation, that he was not able to fight in America. The only reason he could fight wasn't about us going, oh, what commission can we choose? When he boxed in Las Vegas, they both had to contact, and Florida, they both contacted the British Boxing Board of Control and said, is this guy cleared to fight? Is he suspended? And they said, no, he's not. and they allowed him to fight.
Well, the semantics do get
Yeah,
messy in
but when
boxing.
when you are suspended and then you get cleared, like so your suspension goes, that's what happens. You're cleared to fight. If he's suspended again, he's not cleared to fight, and I'll say the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So again, until you hear from the board and Conor, Benn and UCAD, let's see what happens.
Well, your gut feeling, does he ever fight in the United Kingdom again?
Oh, without doubt. Without doubt. I mean, it's been nearly 2 years since his test. Have you ever known, you've been in boxing a long time, have you ever known anything like this? Where 2 years on, we're still doing interviews every day. There's a number of high-profile fighters recently that have failed drugs tests that 3 months later, 4 months later are cleared and they're fighting it. And no one's even mentioned it, really. Like fighters that are returning, he went through this, he got cleared from the WBA or whatever. But Conor's case, and he has played it poorly on occasions because he's an emotional young man. He wanted to tackle a lot of it on his own, which I think was a mistake. But it's been 2 years. Like in June, it's 2 years from the test. It's a long period of time, and it's frustrating for me because I've got the Eubank fight, I've got the Kell Brook fight, I've got the Manny Pacquiao fight, all these other fights ready to go. But one thing I won't do is when he is suspended, if he's suspended, and he had been, I won't go rogue and start going to Timbuktu to stage a Conor Benn fight. We'll work with the ABC, we'll work with the commissions, and that's what we did last time.
Eddie, moving on to and Brian Lemos giving some Brian Castano vibes up here. But,
you know what, Sean? I love this when this happens. Sometimes you don't see it, and I hope I was still mic'd actually. I went up to his manager, and he went to me, on Saturday night, we will give you one of the best, most violent performances from a away fighter on the show. I was like, I didn't know who he was. And I went, who? And he went, Gustavo Lemos. He said, we will shut up Richardson Hitchins, and I'm telling you now, you will have a superstar on your hands. I was like, I don't believe you, but I love to hear it. Do you know what I mean? And I love the confidence of Richardson Hitchins because, again, it kind of goes back to the media conversation of Hitchins, his story, right, as the kid from Brooklyn who used to walk to the Cops and Kids boxing club that we went to recently. He is a product of boxing, like of his environment, right? I think he's as good as he's up there with Shakur, Devin, Teofimo, all of those guys. But you've got to be exciting at the same time because he doesn't have the profile. So you got to talk the talk, which he does really well, and I really liked what he said. But you got to show it in the ring. What I don't want him to do is win every round and just box and move. Like, it's nice. Beat him up and then knock him out. And then stand on the turnbuckle and say, I want Haney. Don't forget, this fight is a final eliminator for Subriel Matisse against Liam Paro. Like, we could do, and I know
he doesn't sound in love with the 10-pound rehydration.
No, he's not. Yeah. And that's something he's got to go through tomorrow as well. But he's also well ranked with the WBC as well, That's why
you keep bringing up Sandor Martin.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, because Dalton Smith, you just saw is going to go into 2 or 3. Sooner or later, after July 20, May 20, April 20, I'll get it right in a minute, the WBC belt is going to become vacant, right? And Sandor Martin v. someone is going to take place.
You really think Devin will vacate the
100%.
WBC?
He ain't going to fight Sandor Martin. Like, who's going to pay for that fight?
You don't think the WBC would go, do what you want to do, champ, we'll get 3% of whatever you're doing, and
no,
Sandor,
because they've already paid him.
Okay.
They had to pay Sandor Martin for this fight, as a step aside.
Well, and but Devin was talked recently about undisputed at 140.
Yeah, listen, if they can do a deal with Sandor and he'll retire and go and sit on a beach in Barcelona and just take step aside money, good luck to him. But I think Sandor will want to fight for the world title. So unless Devin boxes that off quickly, but you got to take a tiny payday for that, and I don't think Devin's about that, But listen, I think Paro's going to be a really tough fight for Matthias. But if Matthias comes through, he's a dangerous man. Like, listen, I love Matthias against Hitchins in Brooklyn. Great fight. I love Matthias against Regis Prograis. I love Matthias against Devin Haney. I particularly love Matthias against Teofimo Lopez. Oh, what a fight.
How's the business of that fight work, though? What network would it
do you know what, mate? One of the ways in which I am so lucky is the way that DAZN will support us and our fighters in terms of opportunities and taking, like, I think we all agree now that in terms of major fights, DAZN's schedule, especially with the addition now of Munguia, the ability to do business with fights that we don't even promote that are now on the platform, right? Look at Munguia against Canelo. It's on DAZN. The bulk of the buys from that fight are coming from DAZN. No question. Because you already have a captive boxing audience of huge numbers and databases of fight fans over the years, millions of fight fans. Now, Fury against Usyk, live on DAZN, right? Bivol against Beterbiev, live on DAZN. So, for me, DAZN is in such a great spot right now, but they're so good to us in terms of allowing fighters to make the move. So, if Bob came to me and said, right, we want to do Teofimo against Matthias, which, let's be honest, they're not. I mean, he's fighting Steve Claggett, right? They're not going to do. In my opinion, they won't be looking at Matthias unless the money is crazy. But if they did, I would say no problem. You can do the fight. DAZN can also, sub-license it, which is great for the show. Do it on pay-per-view. We'll do it on a top-ranked show. I don't mind. I just want the opportunity for Subriel because I want to see how good he is. And we'll find out against Paro. But, for me, Matthias is a real danger in that division. And I'm looking forward to June 15th. Our first show in Puerto Rico. Be wild.
When we look at the Haney Garcia pressers and you're featured at the end of the table, is that De La Hoya's doing some personal stuff?
Yeah. You don't see what goes on behind the scenes. Right. It's very straightforward. We had some.
Do you guys not like each other?
Who, Oscar?
Yeah,
he says he does. Of course he don't like me, really. But I don't care. He's a legend. I mean, I honestly like all people. I never look at Oscar De La Hoya and go, I know they do because I always come up behind closed doors of what's he doing there and what's he doing there. The situation's quite simple. I had an option with Devin Haney. Right. We allowed the fight, whatever you want to call it. We get paid. Devin gets paid. And am I promoting Haney against Garcia? No. Do they need me to promote it? Yes. Does DAZN want me to promote it? Yes. But I'm not. You're not going to see me. I'm very happy to just be on Devin's team because I like the man a great deal. We've done a huge amount together, and I think he'll win comfortably. I'm just pleased to see with 2 weeks out, it looks like that fight's happening.
Right.
Well, I think we need to switch on now, everyone, to say, oh my God, it's actually happening. Because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think everybody wasn't so sure.
For sure.
But when you're 2 weeks out from a fight and you've been through all of that,
and Ryan's looking strong now.
Yeah. But I've said all along, people around Ryan will have to make the decisions for him with his best interests at heart. And I don't think Derek, Oscar, Bernard would let him get in the ring if he wasn't able to be competitive. And but I expect a masterclass from Devin. I really do.
Do you think he gets the stoppage?
Yes, 100%. I think. By the way, Ryan's style is not a great style for Devin. Someone who's sharp, good reflexes as well, can punch a little bit as well. Like, for Devin, you want someone who's particularly got, slow feet and, likes to fall in and all this kind of stuff. So it's actually quite a tough fight for Devin. But I think sharpness, mindset, I expect him to outbox him and then to stop him late in the fight.
Thanks, Eddie. That's all I got for you today.
Cheers, Sean.
Thank you, brother.